This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
It's Radio 1's Screen Time. Yippee-ki-yay.
Hello and welcome to another very special interview special of Radio 1 Screen Time, the movies and TV podcast hosted by yours truly, Ali Plum, Radio 1 and One Extra's film critic. Now today we're discussing Peaky Blinders in depth with CillianMurphy. This is Becoming Tommy Shelby. You know my Becoming interviews. I've done them with Chris Hemsworth for Thor. How about Tom Holland for Spider-Man? The list goes on and on. Why not Brie Larson for Captain Marvel? But it's nice to do TV show ones as well. Like, I've done one for The Doctor, I've done several over the years, but this one is super special because I love Peaky Blinders. This is a show that really needs no introduction. We are now, I'm happy and sad to say, at the beginning of the final season. Go to BBC iPlayer, watch it live whenever you can. This is such an amazing show. The cast alone, over the years we've had Sam Neill, Annabelle Wallis, Charlotte Riley, Tom Hardy of course, Adrian Brody, Aidan Gillen, Anya Taylor-Joy, Sam Claflin, Stephen Graham. Again, what a show. It is written, created by Stephen Knight. It's set in Birmingham, of course, in the early 20th century. It's peaky, expletive, deleted blinders, as I often find myself having to say. I cannot wait for you to see this new series. I personally have been loving rewatching the previous seasons/series over the past few months, and it was an honour and a privilege and a joy to speak to Cillian. I think we have quite similar sensibilities in not necessarily loving going outside, which filled my heart with joy, but it was great to talk to him about what fans say to him and what it's been like getting those incredibly sharp haircuts over all these years and what the character means to him, how he got the role, how you become Tommy Shelby next time you're trying to do it justice, the character justice, at the next Halloween/fancy dress party. So, this is Becoming Tommy Shelby. I'm Ali Plum and this is CillianMurphy. Let's go. So, how good are you at taking compliments? Like, I don't want to overload you here, right? Because often with these interviews, it's a deep dive into a character. But let me just say up top, in case I forget, you are exceptional and utterly enthralling as Tommy. And the idea of not getting an extra season off the back of this one, I'm not sure I can come to terms with it.
First of all, that's very kind. Yeah, I mean, COVID came in and changed everything, didn't it? So we had to kind of rearrange things, and this will be the final season.
I'll take what I get. I'm not going to be ungrateful. So, cast your mind back. You are Tommy Shelby, leader of the peaky, expletive deleted blinders. How the heck did that happen? Way back in the day, before 2013 and the first series aired, how did you get the gig?
I remember at the time I was watching a lot of American television, particularly The Wire, and I thought it was amazing. And I said it to my agent. This is 2012. And I said it to my agent. I said, I'd love to I know that there's something exciting happening in television. Is there anything around? Do you know of anything? And 2 days later, he sent me the first 2 scripts of Peaky. So it was great serendipity and great agenting combining. And I read it and I thought it was magnificent. You know, it was clearly really excellent quality writing. So then I met up with Steve Knight and Karen Mandelbach, and it kind of went from there.
It must seem like inevitability now. Like for me as a viewer, as a critic, I look at you as Tommy Shelby and go, oh, it was destined. How close were we not to having you in the role? Like, was it ever touch and go?
I think that there may have been, and I think, like, I'm not talking out of school here, I think that Steve and Karen definitely had some reservations about me being able to inhabit, I suppose, the physicality of the character, you know, because I'm not the biggest man in the world. And up until that point, I'd never entered the gym willingly. And so I think that may have been a concern, but we got over that, you know. I just started working really hard on the character from the beginning, you know. But at the time, you have to remember, nobody knew that this was a small show on BBC Two, you know. Like we all wanted to make the best show that we possibly could, but nobody kind of could conceive of how it would be received, you know, ultimately.
I would have secretly been holding out hope. If I could have gone to Ladbrokes and put, money down, I'd have gone, this is going to be a hit. Not just because of your involvement, but like Sam Neill, like the writing alone, the music, even the title sequence every time just makes me go, this was born to be a hit. Did you harbour those secret hopes that this was going to be one of those shows?
Truthfully, you're just so focused and obsessed with doing the first series as best you can, and believing that if you do it as best you can, then hopefully people will invest in it, and hopefully the BBC will give you another go. But we didn't really know, and I do, from what I recall, it was quite slow. That it was quite slow that people began to really invest in the show, and I think that it was only really the second series that it tipped into that kind of phenomenon thing.
It's so funny how that happens. They need to know that 2 series have been commissioned before they can invest in it. I think that's part and parcel of the thing now.
I think so, and I think that's fair enough. And I'm not sure. I could be wrong now. You can correct me, but I'm not sure at that point did BBC have a long-running drama like that, a recurring drama like that. I'm not quite sure. There certainly weren't many, so that was a new departure for them as well, I think.
Be honest with me, though, when you first saw the title on the script, Peaky Blinders, you must have gone, right, so that's a temp title, just to be clear.
Even though it's true, I really did think, I didn't think it was the catchiest of titles. I didn't know what it meant. And, when you Googled Peaky Blinders back in 2012, there was one, you would get one hit, and that was it. So it all came from Steve Knight's imagination, and his parents, I believe, had been runners for the original Peaky Blinders, and they had told him the stories, and that's how he acquired the stories, and then he wrote them, but sort of wrote them through the eyes of a child, so that the characters were always very heightened. Everything was extra,
And now we live in a world where if you Google Peaky Blinders, you might get the Peaky Baker's Bakery or the, what is that one? The Shelby Salon Peaky Barbers.
Okay.
Say that 5 times fast. I mean, you must have seen tattoos and all sorts. What sort of overwhelming fan interaction have you enjoyed?
I think when we did the premiere for Series 3, we did the premiere in Birmingham, and there was thousands of people. Like, there was actually thousands of people dressed as, for a normal premiere, it's not, people are not that interested really, but they turn up. But this was like, it seemed like the city had come out to see us, and everybody was dressed as Peaky Blinders. And it was a lovely thing to go back and to do the premiere in Birmingham, and we've always done that since, always done the premiere in Birmingham. So I think it was then that I began to realize that this was something different, or, that how much the fans cared about the characters, cared about the show. That was really new.
In 2015, 2016, it was a bit strange if you didn't have the haircut. And that's when I kind of went, right, everyone must be watching this show. Like, you must have walked into rooms and seen a whole group of men turn at you and go...
Yeah.
Like, has that happened?
I try to avoid those encounters, because I know that I would not live up to their imaginations. They would be terribly disappointed.
Right.
So I try to avoid those. But, when you do encounter people, like, it's so lovely because the knowledge and the commitment and the investment, I keep saying that word, but, that's how they really care about the show and the characters. And it's a lovely feeling, it's genuine.
Of course. Let's dig into the character, I suppose. What is it that you might think, that you'd say, what is it about Tommy that people respond to? I mean, I've got a list of possibilities just to get the ball rolling. Like, he's a guy with nerves of steel. He's unbelievably hardworking. The ladies love him, obviously. But to me, it's his intelligence. I think what is so appealing to him is that he is burdened with intelligence.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. I've said that before, that it's a burden on him, and I thankfully I don't have that burden myself, but I've met other people, and it is because I think that you perceive the world and people in a much different way, and your brain is processing it at such a higher speed than everybody else, and it is a burden, I think. And I think what in the writing, I think the brilliant thing that Steve Knight did was that he made the line of the First World War, the character. So there was always this sort of memory or of Tommy of this, happy, not damaged, accessible character. And then the First World War just destroyed him. And I think that the fact that he then was unafraid of death, that's kind of, it was kind of the engine for me, certainly at the beginning, that he was like, why not? Why not? Let's try everything. Because if I'm going to die tomorrow, why not?
It feeds into his humour, because I think as cool as he looks, as fantastic as he looks, whipping his hat off in slow motion, he's this really funny guy, even with a gun to his head. And that's obviously part and parcel of the same thing, where it's like, well, might die tomorrow, I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
Are there particular lines of Tommy's that stick in your head where you go, that was a joy to say?
Oh, Steve Knight has written some beauties.
From the first series, you've got, it's not a good idea to look at Tommy Shelby the wrong way.
Yeah, that's a beaut.
Perfect.
That's a beaut. I remember, I don't know who I said it to or in what context, but I said to somebody that all religion is a foolish answer to a foolish question. Yeah, it's pretty amazing piece of writing. So there's plenty of them. I won't be able to recall it anymore straight off, I'm afraid.
No, of course, it's an impossible question. The other one that I think I've seen people quote is, I don't pay for suits. My suits are on the house, or the house burns down.
Yeah, I think that was series 1, wasn't it?
That's when you go, yep, I think I'm doing this. If I can get this gig, we're on.
Yeah, but from the beginning, I mean, even the entrance of him coming in on the horse, the bareback of the horse through the Garrison Lane, like that's an amazing piece of writing. And the way it was executed, the way it was directed was amazing. So you just knew from the beginning that it was top quality.
If I were to go like really the extra mile for my Tommy Shelby Halloween costume next year, what would you say would be the most important things to concentrate on? I mean, obviously I'd need the ice blue contact lenses and I need some sort of really important, serious jaw reconstruction. But, what about the way you handle cigarettes? Like you kind of gum them a bit, don't you?
Yeah, now there's a really, that comes from the fact that the cigarettes, we cut the filter off. If you don't rub them across your lips initially, they will stick. You see, so that just became this sort of idiosyncrasy, but it was out of necessity because otherwise the cigarettes would stick to my lip, and then I just kept doing it, and it became a Tommy thing. These things develop over the course of the show, For example, I remember we had gotten through the first 2 series, and then we realized that Tommy has never eaten. We've never seen Tommy eat. Like he sat down at tables, but has never consumed a morsel. So then we made it a kind of a running gag. So throughout the 36 hours of television, Tommy Shelby never consumes anything except, I think, once he consumes a sprig of mint when he's with his son. But aside from that, so these things develop when you have the luxury of being with a character for so long. These little things arise, and you just, I will say it to Steve, or Steve will pick up on it, and then we'll just kind of run with it,
There's somebody who's counted the number of times you've drunk whiskey, and it's something like 213 times.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can punch that weight, but I'll do my best. I'll also need to work on my Birmingham baritone, obviously.
Yes.
You knock down the octave a bit.
Yeah.
And where should I go for the haircut? How often does it need to be topped up on set? Is it a daily routine?
Depending on, and throughout the series, we've had different severity of cut, and I think in series 5, it was the most severe. It was a 0 blade.
Skull.
Yeah. So that required daily attention. Yeah. And then growing it out is traumatic, because it doesn't look good when that midpoint. Yeah. So it takes a bit of patience to actually grow it out.
Yeah, you must have a large collection of beanie hats that are perfect for each stage.
I have. And hoodies, yeah.
Beanie hats and hoodies, sometimes both, just to be sure.
Yes.
I think I'd also need to perfect my finger wagging, because when Tommy's upset, out comes the finger.
You're taking apart my performance now.
And I guess my big question, I often like asking this one, is posture-wise, what should I be going for? If I'm trying to be Tommy, what should I do with my body physically?
Well, that was another trick. You see, all of these tricks were in it for me to feel like someone who was who could elicit fear in people, who was very physically capable, who that violence was a form of expression for him. So all of these things, the severe haircut, dropping the voice. So the walk, then we tried, it was kind of the George Bush walk initially, when, like to try and give you the impression that you are actually more physically powerful than you may be, So there was all of that. All of these things are little like, we make the shoulders in the costume bigger and all of these things. But yeah, you'd have to walk in a George Bush Jr. way.
All right, note taken. I'm on it. Of all the incredible cast members that you've worked with, from the late great Helen McCrory and Paul Anderson and everyone, like so many incredible people, Paddy, Tom Hardy, we've mentioned Sam Neill already, Aidan Gillen, the list literally goes on and on. I'm trying not to list them all. Anya, Adrian. Who was the most likely to make you laugh on set?
I'd have to say Helen, actually. Yeah, we were very, very good buddies on that show, and she would make me laugh a lot, I have to say. And she would always take the mickey out of herself as well as taking the mickey out of me. Yeah, we had it, and it's important on this show because a lot of the scenes are so bloody intense, and so demanding, sort of psychologically, and you're going places that are difficult enough to go to. So you have to have some levity to balance it up, and I always had an amazing laugh.
Honestly, though, what was your first reaction to Tom Hardy's accent?
I mean, you never quite know what to expect with Tom, but he absolutely, that character came fully formed.
Out of the box.
And yeah, he just knew, he just absolutely knew what he was doing there. And again, it's coupled with this amazing dialogue that he was given by Steve Knight. Yeah, he went for it, and it worked again. This is one of these lovely sort of accidents or surprises that happens. The energy that Alfie has is completely counter to the energy that Tommy has. So when you put them together in a scene, it really works. And we always cross shoot those scenes, so it's like a piece of theater. Sometimes you have 20-minute takes, because traditionally or conventionally you would shoot over the shoulder. But yeah, that's hard to do when you're in these big scenes, because you're not reacting in actual real time to what the other character is saying. So we make an exception always for the Tommy Alpha scenes to cross shoot them, and I think that's why they really sing, and it's also to do with Tom's.
You got to keep it all in. You don't want to miss a gram of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
What would you say have been the toughest scenes to shoot emotionally? I know this is raking over some tough stuff, but what springs to mind?
Yeah. Well, I know that it was probably this series 6, which isn't out yet, or which we've just finished, but that was the hardest. That was the hardest, mostly because of external reasons, because we were shooting at the kind of apex of the COVID lockdown in Britain, and then poor Helen passed, and then it was just a very, very stressful, tough shoot. And then also thematically, when you see the show, you realize it's really dark, and it's a culmination of a lot of storylines. So we're putting together a lot of storylines, and I think for people who watch the show, they can see that Tommy has been struggling with his mental health over the course of the whole show, and it comes to a kind of a climax in 6. So a lot of the scenes are like that. There's not much in the actual writing. There's some comedy, and not much with Tommy, but it's a you have to go for it. It takes it out of you psychologically, because you're going places that are quite, like I said, you're examining parts of the psyche that you would normally examine.
Yeah, and as much as it might be fun to ask Steve for a little bit of slapstick banana slips, it's just not going to fit in with a show.
No, you get those moments. I think you get them with Arthur sometimes. They're very good, and they jump out. But generally, the mood, particularly in the series 6, the mood is the word I'm using a lot is gothic. It's quite gothic.
Interesting. Of the other big emotional moments, or the ones that fans have reacted to, what have been the highlights across the series in terms of when that episode airs, people are going to pop off?
Well, the ones that I personally enjoyed shooting and were, I think it was in series 2 when Tommy gets out of the grave, and you think he's dead, but and I genuinely, when reading that, could not figure out how he could possibly get out. of course, that's Steve Knight's brilliance that he manages. Probably like when Grace got killed, I think that was definitely unexpected and that was a goodie. Yeah. I remember was it series 3 when Paddy Considine's terrible priest character kidnaps my son. That was pretty heavy duty. Yeah. So yeah, there's been a lot of those actually.
Those are 3 moments that are suddenly taking me back to screaming at my TV screen in the best possible way. On a lighter note, I read somewhere that David Bowie was a big fan of this show, and I was wondering what quote unquote famous fans you've met who've said, I have to talk to you about Peaky Blinders. I respect you as a human being. I want to see how your day is going, but can we also just talk about Tommy, please?
Oh, I'm terrible for this because I don't really go out, so I don't really.
You and me both, Cillian.
Good. I'm glad to hear. I know I don't really meet that many people unless I'm working with them directly. You know, I know I spoke to David Bowie like personally, and he did tell me that he was a massive fan. And then I gave him a gift of my Series 1 hat, which I know he loved. When he put out that album Black Star, you know, just before he died, he asked, or he gave it to Steve Knight and said, "Listen, if you want to use any of these songs in the show, you can," and we did.
I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, that was probably the most special. Yeah, that was the most special.
When you are out and about on those rare occasions that you or I actually leave the house, do you ever get people accidentally calling you Tommy? Are there ever any waiters that have kind of tripped over their words and gone, "Here's your bill, Tommy"?
No, not so much that, but I do get the Tommy when they get shouted at when I'm walking down the road. I get that quite a bit. Yeah. But it happens again. Like if I have the haircut,
oh, you're gone.
Yeah, but when I kind of look more like myself, I get that to know. But again, I look at it as I look at it as affection. You know, I really feel it's affectionate because these people care so much about it. I don't find it an imposition. You know, really.
I'm going to wrap things up with one of those almighty questions. But what will you miss most when you do finally hang up the hat? Like, what will it be about this show that you will reminisce over?
Yeah, people have asked me that, and I don't think I'll really be able to fully answer it until this series airs and is out. By the time it comes out, it'll have been a decade, you know, of my life. I guess I'll miss the people, you know. It was a long journey for all of us making that show, big journey. So I miss the people involved. Like there's been so many people over the years, all the directors and all the cast came in and out. It's been a big adventure.
It sure has, and we're all very grateful for you taking us on it. Is there any advice you'd give to your younger self a decade ago before you said yes to this and it all came together? Just to warn them, like even the tiniest thing, like if you're going to be running in these shoes, wear double socks because...
Yeah, that's a good tip. I don't know. I'm a non-smoker. I never anticipated smoking that many. You know, they're not real, obviously, but like I asked the prop guys to count how many I smoked, and I think it's 3,000 a series, you know, so it can't be good for you, right? So take a lot of vitamin C to counteract it. That's probably my advice. Take a lot of vitamin C. Look, I'm wagging the finger now.
And make sure there's an inhaler on set at all times.
Indeed.
It's been a real pleasure, and I've got to tell you, I very nearly said thank you so much, Tommy, which says enough. I think it's been emotional. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks again.
Man. Nice to talk to you.
So there you have it, CillianMurphy being a wonder and a charmer. You can, of course, watch this show on iPlayer. I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but I'm saying it now. In visuals, in colour, in sound, with me and him talking over Zoom, but it's still lovely to see him smile when he's telling that David Bowie story or talking about the incredible Helen McCrory, who I just wanted to flag up at the end to give her even more emphasis. She was the late, great hero of the show, and I just adore her, and it's so sad that she's gone, but what a performance, what a role, and what a character. So here's to her, here's to you, here's to Cillian. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Be loved, be safe, and be good to yourself. Bye.
One. If you love arsing around but hate early starts, then the good news is there's a podcast for that.
Radio 1 Breakfast.
With Greg James.
Best bits.
There's controversy.
Picnics are great.
There's big questions.
Is it okay to flirt with people that aren't your partner?
There's shocking revelations.
I let myself down at the doctor's.
And some things just best left unexplained. Are you interested? I thought you were.
Radio 1 Breakfast.
With Greg James.
That's me. Listen when you want on BBC Sounds.